Hey everybody, in this video you're going to get to watch me build my brand new workbench. I went with the Ruobo style, I think I said that right, workbench, and I believe it's going to work great for my application, what I'm going to use it for, so stick around.
I started by cutting the lap joints on the legs, getting them all ready for the bracings. Two legs will get a very long lap joint due to the fact of it getting a apron on it. While gluing these legs up to the apron, I actually drilled and went ahead and put the peg in instead of using screws. I changed that later on. Not sure what I was thinking as I was doing this one, but it happened. For the rest of the aprons, I used screws instead of the dowels to act as clamps. That's a much better idea. Now, I did take them out later on and put dowels in to give it a good hardware-free look, but to act as a clamp, I went ahead and put screws in. It was a much better idea. And once all the aprons was on, I put some bracings for the corners to keep everything good and square. I did leave these screws in. And after cutting and planing the top, I was ready to glue it together. This was a nerve-wracking situation for me because of all the work that I had into it. One mistake that was not fixable was going to be horrible for me. So I was extremely nervous during this point, but everything did turn out good. And if you ever know somebody who's not a woodworker says you don't need that many clamps, you can show them this clip right here. I needed more clamps than I had, but it ended up turning out okay once I basically took every clamp I had and put on this. So you always need more. And while the top was drying, I went ahead and started work cutting a crochet. I've never used one before and have been very curious on how well they work. So I want to put one on this bench. After a few days of being in clamps, I went ahead and took them out and started cutting the top. Now, I didn't have a really good way to cut the top except for a skill saw and a rip saw. In the long run, it was a bad idea, but it's what I had, and it cut well. It's just everything else could have been an issue. With the ends being cut and it cut down to size, I went to drilling my mortises. Now, I used a 2-inch Forstner bit to drill these mortises because they were going to be a 2x4 mortise, so it was not a good idea using a 2-inch Forstner bit with a lot of pressure in red oak, because I ended up smoking that drill, man. It got way too hot, but it worked decent after I let it cool off. If I would have done it again, probably a smaller bit and just more holes. And with the holes drilled, I still had a little bit of wood to work out, so I grabbed a chisel and a mallet and went ahead and worked all that. Here I am using that mallet and that chisel, just whoop it, getting it going. I was trying to keep a sharp chisel during this process to make sure it cut good and clean, and it made a huge difference. Once the top was ready to put on the workbench, my wife's cousin came over and gave me a hand, as I could not lift this by myself. It was a very heavy workbench. The mortises were tight, so we did have to use clamps to compress it down and get everything good and tight and actually in position. You can see right there my wife making a cameo back there in the corner. Throw a hand up and give you a wave. With all the clamps on, this one side or one corner was being stubborn, so I ended up taking a sledgehammer and just dropping it on a scrap piece of wood to get it to break down. And once everything was in position, I started drilling holes for pegs. I did not glue the top to the legs, but I am gluing the pegs in position just to keep everything good and tight and where it needs to be. And once the top was on, I put the side apron on using screws. I didn't want to put dowels on it because of the way the grain moved. So I just left it screwed with screws. And once the apron was on, I laid out and started drilling holes for the holdfast to use alongside with the crochet once I put it on. And then the next thing to do was put all the dog holes in the top of the workbench. So I laid them out and I put them tighter spacing. The side was 6 inches apart and these were 3 inches apart. So these are for holdfast or bench dogs to use alongside the vise I'm putting on, or just by themselves with them being the holdfast. and all my dog holes were drilled, I put a chamfering bit in my router and went and put a chamfer on every single hole on the top and the apron, just to keep it from splitting, give it a good chamfer, smooth finish. Next, I went back to work on my crochet, drilling holes for mounting, along with Forstner bit holes to accept the heads of the screws. I use 4-inch GRK screws, structural screws, just to make sure it has good bite and good strength. Then I drilled holes in the ends of my rod for my vise so that it will not slide out and it's got good strength. Once everything else was done, I put my wooden plate that I made on my vise and make sure everything lined up. I run the vise in good and tight, and then tightened up the 2 alignment rods. Once those are tight, I went ahead and put the screws in so it cannot slide and stays with the end of the vise. To reach the 2 closest to the center, I had to get that extension bit, but it worked out really well, and the vise is done.
And there you have it. This is my new workbench. I'm very proud of it. It took a lot longer than I expected to make it, due to the fact I had a lot of other things going on I had to take care of. There were mistakes made. I don't know if y'all missed it or not, but there were mistakes made in this video. I'll go over a few of them. Start off with the top. I went with the red oak top. I got rough sawn lumber from my mill, and there's some knots in it that when I glued it up I didn't pay attention to. That's my fault. They are shown on top, but it kind of gives it that rustic little look to it that I really like. You notice one of the legs. If you didn't, go back and watch it again. Why not? I went with the mortise and tenon style to secure the legs to the top. And one of the legs is far one over here. As I was cutting the lap for the apron on the bottom for the bracing, I cut them on the wrong side. So I had to cut that is an exposed tendon, I guess you'd say. Exposed tenon. That you can see it. It's the only one like that, but it makes it unique. It was a mistake, but I kind of like it myself. Another mistake, my vise back here. That's the second vise I made. The first one, I drilled the holes wrong. It started to look like Swiss cheese, so I just scrapped that piece and made a whole new one. And it turned out great. So I really like that. The ends, I cut them with a skill saw and then with a rip saw. Horrible idea. They're rough as I'll get out. I sanded them and they're still rough, so I'm gonna sand them some more. And I'm gonna say that's about it as far as my problems, my issues. If you got anything out of this video, give me a like. If you want to see more content, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. If you got any questions or comments, that's what the comment section's for, man. You know a way I could have done this better, put it in there, help somebody else with your ideas. Don't forget I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok as well. Why not check those out? Y'all have a good one. God bless.